GM, welcome friends back to another episode of the Web3 Academy podcast. I am Kyle Reidhead. You can find me on Twitter at Kyle Reidhead. That's REIDHEAD. Hit me up on Twitter. I'd love to hear from you on there. But today we are talking about why community is the secret to Web3 success. And to be completely honest, it's not just about Web3. Community is the secret to success in all business. As the founder of a marketing agency who has helped many Web2 and Web3 businesses grow, community really should be at the focal point of everything you do. And this podcast episode is going to explain why that is. It's going to help you gain the conviction to go all in on community, whether that means resources, whether that means human capital. It means, going and talking to your boss and telling them we need to go and focus on community, whatever that is. You need that conviction because this is what's going to bring success to just about any business. Okay. So that's what we're going to dive into. But before we do, I just want to mention that we are also currently running an 8-week community-led mastermind on how to build and scale community online. And in fact, this episode is coming out of the first session that we had inside of this mastermind. And if you'd like to join, it's very easy. Just go to the form below in the show notes. Click on the link, and there's a couple questions, and you'll join into our Discord, which is where we're hosting these sessions on a weekly basis. What we're doing here is we have a massive community of those founders and marketers and community builders in the Web3 space who are coming together. In the first session, we talked about what are the most important parts of building community that we need to uncover and really understand. And that built out our outline. And now over the next 8 weeks, we are covering all things about how to architect your Discord to create community experiences, how to track and create, key metrics for community building, how to inspire engagement, how to use social media to help you with building community, and so much more. So it's free. Don't worry about it. Just fill out the form. It'll push you into the Discord, and you can join in the next session. They are Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have some incredible guests that are speaking in these mastermind sessions. So make sure to check that out. But let's first dive into community and really understand why this is so important to our businesses. Before we do that, let's take a second to hear from our sponsors. The future of social media is here, and that future lives in Web3 on top of Lens protocol. Web2 social platforms are broken and ripe for disruption. You see, the epicenter of social media is the creators, and yet they are the most neglected. Web2 platforms like Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram are all essentially robbing creators of their worth. Creators are a new type of entrepreneur, forming new types of businesses. Yet with Web2 platforms, creators don't own their content or their profiles, and that's their product and business. Instead, they are tied to the platforms they choose to create on. Well, just like how crypto is freeing us from banks, Web3 is freeing us from these centralized platforms. On Lens protocol, creators own their content, own their profile, and even their social graph and followers in the form of NFTs. This allows you to move freely from one social application to another with your content, profile, and followers moving along with you. Lens protocol enables self-sovereignty for your social graph and interoperability across the internet. At Web3 Academy, we believe this is the future of social, and that's why we've partnered with Lens to ensure that the path of social media is heading in the right direction. Visit lens.xyz to learn more today.
Unlock Protocol is the NFT membership protocol for Web3. Content subscriptions, community access, event tickets are all forms of memberships, one of the most common business models for creators and entrepreneurs today. Building an NFT membership opens many new possibilities for your members. Everything from tailored multi-platform experiences to the ability to sell an unfinished subscription on secondary markets. These are things just not possible in Web 2. However, in order for this business model to work, creators need NFTs which are time-bound or have built-in recurring payments. Unlock Protocol does this for your NFTs. Better yet, with a few simple steps, you can create your own NFT contract without code. What WordPress has done for websites, Unlock Protocol is doing for membership NFTs. If you're an NFT creator, you can't rely on royalties as they are likely going to zero. You need recurring revenue. You need Unlock. At Web3 Academy, we believe NFT memberships are the future of business and community. And that's why we decided to build on Unlock. Learn more at unlock.xyz. web3-protocol.com.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. You've no doubt heard people championing that community is everything. If you follow me on Twitter, you see that I tweet that out all the time, but many do on Twitter. And while we definitely agree, I think that we need to understand the why before we can consciously build our communities. Otherwise, it just becomes something we say, but never realize the benefits of. Community first thinking isn't unique to Web3, as I mentioned. Top companies such as Apple, Tesla, and Berkshire Hathaway all have their evangelists who'd rather die than support a competitor, even if it made logical sense to choose another option. Yes, I'm looking at you, Apple fans, and you know what? I'm actually one of those fans as well. But in all seriousness, community first thinking will become the norm, and venture capital firm Bessemer agrees. They predict that in the next few years, more than half of startups will have community-focused employees before they cross $5 million in revenue. Now, in this deep dive, in this episode here, I'll be covering what's wrong with the current community dynamic and all the ways an engaged community benefits your organization. For example, number 1, solidifying your competitive advantage. Number 2, lowering your marketing costs. And number 3, creating sustainable product demand. So let's dive into this. What's wrong with the current community dynamic? Well, when most people think of communities, they're actually thinking about audiences. Audiences dominate Web 2 and are still noticeable in Web 3 as well. And no, just because a Web 3 organization has a Discord server doesn't mean that they have a community. You can think of an audience as a one-to-many relationship. This means a creator or business is the sole contributor, while audience members are consumers. For example, many audience-focused products revolve around paid subscriptions, such as premium newsletters, private communities is in quotations if you're not watching, etc. However, the value proposition of these products is often about access to the creator or the content that that creator is creating. Now, private communities are a step in the right direction, but most of them don't leverage the real power of community. These groups often host weekly calls and have moderators to spur conversation, but besides the few participants that ask questions, community engagement flatlines. Instead, the right community dynamic involves members actively contributing to discussions, maybe even leading them, hopefully, established community members helping and interacting with new ones, and members who are involved in shaping products, events, experiences, and more. A community focus is all about empowering members to share opinions and enable deeper involvement in an organization. Let's talk about ways an engaged community can benefit your organization. And these don't have to be, when I say the word organization, it sounds like a really big company. It can be very, very small. Whether you are an influencer, you write newsletters, or you're Apple and you build big, massive companies. An engaged community is one of the most powerful business tools you could ever come across. Members can help you shape your products and services, alert you to new business opportunities, and act as human billboards for your organization. In Web3, your community can help you create the yet-to-be-written playbooks for success. All you have to do is listen to them. And by the way, that's exactly what we're doing with Web3 Academy. We are not experts at Web3. No one is. But our community is helping us, and we are all together building some amazing resources, just like the mastermind that I mentioned at the beginning. So in particular, I believe there are 4 major ways an engaged community can support your organization. 1, community becomes your new moat. 2, members help you scale by engaging with new members. 3, engaged community members are effective social sellers. And 4, community stays with organizations through thick and thin. You're seeing that happen right now in this current bear market in Web3. So let's explore how these can benefit your business. Let's break down each one. Let's start with community is your moat. In a world where open source technology is becoming ubiquitous, any sort of technological advantage there once was between organizations is slowly dying. On top of this, Web3 interoperability lowers switching costs drastically since users don't have to lose their data if they want to move to another platform. That means your competitive advantage must come from something that a competitor can't easily copy, your community. When you have a group of people who, 1, share a common interest in your vision, 2, enjoy interacting with your organization and other members, and 3, are empowered to meaningfully shape your organization's path, well, then you're well on your way to increasing the stickiness of your community. Basically, the stickier your community is, the easier it is to retain current members, making it easier to then acquire new members through that network effect. The battle between Apple and Samsung is the perfect example of stickiness. Based on the specs of each company's flagship product alone, Samsung is arguably the winner by a small margin. But to be fair, Samsung's price are about $100 more per device across the board. Now, regardless, based on logic, you'd expect sales for each company's smartphones to be somewhat evenly matched. But in the US, Apple accounts for a whopping 48% of the total market share, while Samsung comes in at about 30%. This is the power of community as a moat. If a competitor offers a similar product, engaged community members won't bat an eyelid. Communities are also appeal to consumers' emotions, meaning they'd be more inclined to buy a product that gives them a sense of belonging or an ego boost. Engaged community members can function as part-time employees. This is number 2 in our list here that we're going to break down. The level of contribution will vary depending on each member's engagement and attachment to your organization. However, even the smallest of member contributions can give your actual employees more time for other tasks. Community members can help across all facets of your organization, including product development, marketing, customer service, research, etc. For example, you can poll your community to get their feedback on product design, features, price points, and more. Some community members may even help you build these products if they're big fans of your vision or if you can incentivize them correctly, hence the use of bounties and tokens in Web3. A real-world example of community contribution comes from Jason Keith, who was a recent guest on our weekly roll-up. He was also on our podcast a few months ago as well in the Doer Spotlight. Now, Jason, who is part of the Jump DAO, was inspired by Jump's branding, vision, and community, leading him to work on a side project of character illustrations now called Swoopas. He wasn't asked or incentivized upfront to create these characters. Instead, the project was all about adding value to the Jump community. On top of this, halfway through the project, he asked the DAO if they wanted to get involved. The answer? A resounding yes. The DAO took charge, helping to better align the NFT traits and stories with the community, culminating in an ongoing mint. While Jason doesn't have grand plans for the collection just yet, it's now an asset that the Jump DAO can leverage to build its community. And when your community members begin contributing to your organization, they automatically become more invested in its long-term success. Engaged communities, this is number 3. Engaged communities stay through thick and thin. Sure, if someone contributes to your organization, they obviously want to see the long-term result of their effort. However, helpful, welcoming communities are simply good for humanity. Everyone wants to feel like they belong somewhere, right? And that's why we have so many communities around the world for things like sports, hobbies, careers, religion, and almost anything you can think of. People need a place where they can talk about their interests and engage with like-minded people. So if you can provide that place for them, whether in Discord or another platform, people will happily stay around. For example, Web3 Academy's social shitposter and football fanatic Raul loves Arsenal. Okay? But over the last few years, Arsenal wasn't doing so great in the English Football League. So why didn't he decide to support another club instead? It all comes down to Arsenal's engaged community. He even went to a local meetup in his city a few weeks ago, which, by the way, that was in Romania. So that's how big this community has grown out, is that there's local meetups happening in Romania for an English football team. And like Arsenal, if you can build an engaged community, it becomes self-sustaining, even if your organization is going through tough times, like many Web3 companies are right now. Not only does this keep your company afloat when the tide is against you, but it also lowers retention costs since engagement isn't purely based on monetary incentives. Now, enabling effective social selling. This is number 4. The current way of social selling is broken. It relies on salespeople and cold outreach, forcing people to pay attention. Instead, I believe an engaged community is the true secret to effective social selling. And no, shilling random tokens on Twitter isn't what we're talking about here. That's affiliate marketing or shilling. It's about the power of well thought out community content. Think about it. If you see a company talking about how great their product is, how do you feel? Even if their product is great, it's easy to feel put off by a company's claims. So businesses have to be more subtle about their promotions. This is why influencer marketing has exploded in popularity over the last few years. But now, especially in Web3, people are becoming more aware of paid influencers preferring unpaid recommendations and content. Outside of this, the real social selling happens in community, potentially even in community Discord servers. When you join a company's server, helpful community members can quickly make you feel comfortable and answer any questions regarding the company. And just like content creation, these interactions are much more meaningful since they come from someone that doesn't have to help other members if they don't want to. But no matter where your community members are promoting your organization, these actions result in lower customer acquisition costs, which is perfect considering that advertising costs are actually rising. Building communities the right way. An open source future is coming, and the last defense against competitors is your community. So it should be at the forefront of your organizational strategy. In saying that, the community first mentality that we've talked about in this deep dive is relatively new focus for organizations. So we won't try to brag and say we know everything about building sustainable, engaged communities, because we don't. I definitely do not. But we do know a handful of Web3 experts that are pioneering and practicing this mentality in their own organizations. And that's why we're running this 8-week community cultivated mastermind on how to build and scale online communities. What's the goal of it? Well, it's to learn about community building best practices alongside you, our Web3 Academy community, the listeners of the podcast, the readers of the newsletter. So some of the things we're going to be learning about is the foundations of building healthy community, that one we've actually already done, social media and the role it plays in engaged communities, how to build and grow past the startup phase of your community. I don't think that people understand how difficult this is. Startup phase is a tough part of your community. And that's just basically when it's all you. Once you start to get the members to contribute as well, things change. That's what pulls you out of your startup phase. We want to talk about how to get through that, how to measure community success and key metrics in designing your community platforms, i.e. Discord, to support community building, and honestly, so much more. But the best part is that we'll be taking what we learn and creating the community building playbook together. While the mastermind has already started, the good news is that we've created some resources in our Discord for you to catch up. So if community building is your priority for 2023, don't miss out on this week's session. We're going to be talking about the startup phase, assuming you're listening to this on Monday when this comes out. So all you have to do is go to the link below and click the link to join into the community mastermind. It'll take you to the Discord. You'll see in the mastermind section of the Discord, there are multiple channels. There's a welcome channel. Check that one out. It'll just kind of give you the insights of what's going on. Then there is a weekly discussion channel where everyone in the community can chat about the things we learned and what we want to learn next. There's a weekly resources channel, which is where you can go and check out the previous sessions that you have missed. There's audio recordings and notes taken that you can just scroll through and check out the slides, and that'll get you up to speed on where we are at. And then you will see the events are hosted inside there at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesdays. So do not miss that. But thank you, friends, for listening to this episode on why community is so important. We will continue to write about community and continue to share these on the podcast, of course. But I do recommend, if you want to learn about community now, this is where I'm learning, to be honest. I'm learning inside of the Discord, inside of this mastermind. It is an incredible experience. And so if you want to learn about community, this is the place to be in Web3 right now. But thank you again so much for listening. If you enjoyed this content, if you enjoyed learning about community, please share our podcast episode. Give us a follow on Spotify, on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, wherever you can. It's no cost to you to do these things, but it does really help us to grow and get our content out to more people. So I thank you so much for doing so. I thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you for listening to Web3 Academy. We hope this helps you along your Web3 journey. And if it does, please share this episode and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Nothing in this podcast was financial advice. Crypto and Web3 can be risky. You can literally lose it all. In fact, if you invest on account of what we say, you probably will lose it all. So don't do that. In all honesty, the point of this podcast is to remove the noise of markets and price and focus on utility and implementation anyway. So you should not take any of this as financial advice. Thank you, friends, and see you in the next one.